Well, we've kept everybody on the cliff long enough. The absolute epic work that we will see in September is The War. And I'm going to let you take it from there and tell everybody a little bit about it.
On September 23rd, PBS will begin broadcasting a 7-part, 14-and-a-half-hour series that we've been working on for many, many years. And it is, in the spirit of public television, a bottom-up look at the Second World War. We felt that too many of the works had focused too much on the top-down version, that kind of sense of presidents and celebrity generals and strategies and tactics. We were interested, and it's informed, I think, most of our work on an idea about what real people were doing, so-called ordinary people, and to follow their experiences. And so we did it in some ways different than any other film we've done. We've taken 4 geographically distributed American towns: Waterbury, Connecticut, Mobile, Alabama, Sacramento, California, and Laverne, Minnesota, a small farming community of 3,000. The others were around 100,000 population. And we've gotten to know the towns. We've gotten to know the people that will wait for these people, who we then send off into not the good war of our subsequent public relations and PR, but the worst war ever. Nearly 60 million human beings died. How could this be the good war? But it is an exercise in understanding what war does to a man. It's an exercise in what war does to a country. I mean, this is the last time we were all together. It was an amazing display of mutual sacrifice and a sense of common purpose that I think all of us yearn for, and why I think people are drawn to public television. Because of all those fractured channels on the dial, we represent a kind of home, a kind of safe base. You know, we're not going to be sexy. We're not the hare in this race, but we're the tortoise, and we will cross the finish line ahead. And I think the war is an attempt to celebrate an America that was stitched together by common ideals, by common purpose in this case, and then just go off and find out what happens. So we spend about 25% in the home front and the rest in battle, the European and the Pacific, and honoring 40 to 50 people that you get to know like family members who stand in for every other person in the country who sacrificed and gave up during this extraordinary
All right, I think it's time. We've whetted everybody's appetite. Let's look at a little preview right now.
I don't think there is such a thing as a good war. There are sometimes necessary wars. And I think one might say just wars. And that I never questioned the necessity of that war, and I still do not question it.
It was on one of my very early missions that I first knew I had killed men. And I remember the impact it had on me when I could see my bullets just tearing into them, and I was doing it knowing I had to do it, that it was my job.
The real war involves getting down there and killing people and being killed yourself or just barely escaping. And it gives you attitudes about life and death that are unobtainable anywhere else.
And we had started losing boys in the neighborhood. The boy up here on the corner was a Navy pilot. He was killed. The boy down the street was an Air Force pilot, and he was missing in action. It was a very, very fearful time.
It's really hard to grasp the power of this thing. Just 90 seconds worth just puts you on edge. And remind me now, 14 and a half hours.
14 and a half hours.
7 parts.
7 parts.
6 years in the making.
Yeah, and all bottom-up experiential, so you feel like you're in those battles.
Paula, I know that you've been fortunate enough to see the whole thing. Can you give us just your personal reaction to it?
This is an extraordinary work, and I've said to Ken, I think it's his best. It's a very powerful story. It's beautifully told. And so in public television, we really are looking at this as the base of a very major effort that stations across the country are involved in. And this film is a catalyst for thousands, I would think, of stories that are being told in stations all over the country. Some are doing their own documentaries about local experiences during the war. Some are involved in oral history projects. I was just in Arkansas a few weeks back and saw an amazing 2-year oral history project that they're just finishing, where they've recorded the stories of people in that community and their experiences during the war. And this is, I think, in many ways what public television does better than anyone, which is to take a broadcast event. And as Ken says, this war is so vast, and to be able to try to capture it even in 14.5 hours, you can't even attempt to do that. And so he's tried to tell this story looking at the experiences of people in 4 specific towns in this country. And so to be able to use this as the impetus for a countrywide movement to encourage stations and communities across the country to capture those local stories as these veterans are passing away at a rate of 1,000 a day, makes this, I think, so critically important and so much more than just a television program. Not that I would say that about any of your work, because I think every piece you've done has been like that.
Well, this is what's so great about public television. We've dropped this tiny little stone into this pool, and what public broadcasting has done is they're the ripples. And so all of these communities are going to take out. We were looking for a universal human experience of war, and of course couldn't tell a fraction of the story, leaving millions untold. And this is the opportunity for these communities to gather around their individual stories and push them back up to the rest of us. And we're going to see literally hundreds of films made out of this effort that are local in nature, that continuing the work that we've done. And it's so exciting.